It's the closest thing I've ever seen to insanity. I feel like the toilet paper aisle in Costco last March, truthfully.
Hey everyone, this is Elijah K. Johnson with the Miles Franklin Market Update. And back with us today is our president, Andy Schectman. Andy, thank you so much for joining us today.
Good morning, Elijah. It's great to see you. I'm glad it's Friday and glad to be back.
So I got a text from you yesterday, and you said that yesterday was the hardest working day of your life. Let us know a little bit about what's going on in Miles Franklin.
I mean, look, I don't want anyone to feel sorry for me. It's a blessing if you own a business. I've done this for 31 years, and nothing I've seen has prepared me for what I see now. I thought last year I'd seen it all, which was really just chump change compared to what we see right now, which is a day that consists of waking up at 6:37 in the morning and replying to emails or being on the phone until 2 o'clock in the morning the following day. And this is every day, 7 days a week. A full-time job of trying to keep supply coming in the door, to stay abreast of what's happening, from when I talk to people like you, to talking to people all day long and sending emails. And any of my clients out there will know, quite often they get emails from me at 2 in the morning as I am finishing my day with emails that should have been replied to hours ago. This is indicative of an expansion of demand into a segment of the population that never even knew gold and silver existed. Rick Rule often talks about, and I've talked about this with your father quite a bit, prior to 2020, the allocation across the financial matrix in the United States to precious metals was 0.5%, with the mean over the past 30 years, 40 years rather, since 1980, being 2.5%. And he would always talk about a regression to the mean. In statistics, that's a high probability. Whenever you get away from long-term averages, the further away you get, the greater the magneticism that draws you back to the mean. And so I would argue we are drawing closer to the mean. And I don't know what it is now, whether it's 1% or 1.5%. But a 2.5% expansion would be a five-fold increase in industry that really is not prepared for that. And we're seeing that right now in mints that can't keep up with demand, refineries that can't keep up with demand, retailers that are out of product, premiums that are going to the moon, massive influx into SLV and GLD, the whole nine yards. The whole precious metals equation is growing in popularity, and maybe even more so in realization that there's value there and that it should be part of people's portfolio. That has been lacking for a long time, but with that comes tremendous strain on the industry. And on my own sleep and personal mental well-being. It's a wonderful problem to have, but it's truly insane, Elijah. I can't quite even begin to convey what it's like for people, other than to say it's like the movie Boiler Room, where the phone just keeps ringing and ringing and ringing and calling and calling and calling. And it's the closest thing I've ever seen to insanity. I feel like the toilet paper aisle in Costco last March, truthfully, but a good problem to have.
And on that note about how, more and more people are moving into precious metals, it's really unprecedented. What is your perspective on how it seems to be really a move into silver? Because, I mean, if you look at the spot prices, most of the time, gold and silver move in lockstep fashion, right? But actually what we've been seeing in the last month or so is actually this disconnect happening, and silver actually rising more. What is your perspective on that, and do you see that continuing?
Yeah, the realization that silver might be the most undervalued commodity or asset on the planet, roughly half of its 1980 double peak high. There are no assets that I can think of that are trading at half of what they were in 1980. For any of you that are old enough to remember this, think of what $100 was worth in 1980, what it bought you in groceries, what $50,000 was in 1980. I mean, in 1980, you could buy a home for $150,000 that today is worth $1 million. It's the increase in inflation and in the decrease in the value of the dollar simply since 1980 is extraordinary. And to find an asset trading at roughly half of it that has such massive amounts of utility is waking people up to the value. But it's also the Reddit folks who have, I think, also helped people understand that there's 8 commercial banks that are net short over 50% of the entire volume on COMEX. That's just unheard of. It's the only commodity where you see that. And they are largely naked short. You have also a delivery month, by the way, the March delivery, which I believe begins here on February 24th. And, a lot of people are expecting fireworks because of this massive short position, on top of the fact that there's a record long position open interest into this delivery month. And if they stand for delivery, there is I guess all bets are off. There is a possibility that it could put massive strain on the COMEX. Could it break it? Maybe. Could it be cash settlement? Maybe. Could you see massive short covering? Maybe. And I think that these banks who are short right now, this massive short position, not only is incentivizing people to realize this is a heck of a play, much better than that of gold, arguably. But also, I think it offers massive upside potential we don't normally associate with precious metals. I mean, I always talk about precious metals being about return of your investment, less return on it. But I'll tell you, silver is, no question about it, is poised and set up on many different levels, supply demand being the biggest of which, for massive, massive upside potential. And again, that's not why I tell people to buy it, but I would be lying if I said I didn't completely see it and expect it. When it happens, how it happens is anyone's guess. Because when I look back over 30 years, Elijah, most of the stuff we've talked about since the late 80s, early 90s have come true, almost all of it. Never when we thought, always much later than we thought, never how we thought, but mathematics and economics and logic have a way of playing out through time. You can't really run from them. You can hide with variables and manipulation, but in the end, it catches you. Mother Nature will catch us and catch the silver price. And those 8 banks that are massively short, which is foolhardy, used to be easy to do when no one wanted it. Now you have an awful lot of attention on it. And yeah, I think it's the buying opportunity of a generation. I mean that. And I've been accumulating it myself in favor or in lieu of gold now for the better part of a year.
Now, as we look at really since February, Miles Franklin having the most demand we've ever had. And, I texted you the other day and you're like, the demand is not letting up. Yeah. So kind of getting into that, what are clients asking about? What are on clients' minds right now? What is pushing so many people to jump into precious metals right now?
Just this realization that so many of the assets or investments out there are distorted, that price discovery is so difficult nowadays that I think people take a look at their 401k and their stock portfolios, and it doesn't really register how it could be doing so well against the backdrop of an economy that has been eviscerated. Businesses, small businesses in particular, gone. 140,000 will never come back. That is the backbone of this country. Small and mid-sized businesses represent almost half of GDP, just over 40%, and they're gone. And but not only that, just the things that we used to do in terms of consumption, which is so important to the GDP and the economy of this country, that has just been ground to a halt. And yet through all of that, we see a stock market at all-time highs. I think people realize that valuations are off and that they are looking at maybe the fact that profit's not a 4-letter word, that they're taking some profit in overvalued assets and shuffling it to undervalued assets. I think there's also people's concern about a new digital Fed dollar, which will all but eliminate all privacy and anonymity. I often joke, if you play in a poker game or you play golf with some buddies or whatever it may be, and there's money to be settled up with at the end of the round or the end of the game, now you're on a ledger that the Fed sees. There is no more anonymity. And I think having precious metals is one of the few, if not the only, asset that is going to get you completely out of the matrix. And I guess you could argue that to an extent with cryptocurrencies. But here again, you see the proliferation in demand in cryptocurrencies too. I think people are scared. They say there's no bull market like a gold bull market for one reason, and it's that it plays on our fear and our concern. And yes, there's still profit potential, and people see that. There's still the greed side of things, but I think people are scared about what's coming, the unknown, the uncertainty of what is coming down the pike. And I think that's what's playing a large role in why people are so insatiably demanding physical metal, and they want it now and they want it in their possession because they realize that the things are accelerating. Time is blurred nowadays, and what used to take months now takes days. And prime example is this February 24th COMEX beginning of the delivery month. People are freaking out. They want it in their possession before then. They think it's going to collapse, or they want to at least have it locked in before then so we can hedge the deal, because they think the market's going to explode or the COMEX could collapse. And there are a lot of variables at play that are accelerating, and I think that builds into people's anxiety. And you know what? I don't really like feeding on anxiety, but I'll tell you something, Elijah. I don't find fault in any of it. Things that I never thought were possible to happen are happening or have happened. And when you look at the fact that there are 8 commercial banks so counterintuitively, massively short in a market that has massive demand, massive utility, and is running deficits north of 250 to 300 million ounces a year, when the expansion of demand and uses, Biden's Green New Deal, Tesla and battery, Samsung and Apple, and all of these things that will be needed. And I've talked about the Chinese Belt Road and Rail Initiative, the connecting of Asia and Africa, the largest infrastructure project in human history. It's 65% of human population can be connected, not just by roads, but also by infrastructure, which needs silver. The demand for silver is growing exponentially. The supply of silver is decreasing exponentially. As Keith Neumeyer said to you and I, it's coming out of the ground at 8-1, yet it's valued right now at almost 70-1. There are very few things on the planet that offer that kind of value. And the reason behind it, I think people are understanding. It's because it's being held back by the commercial banks, by JP Morgan and all the other banks who are holding down the price unquestionably. And we've talked about this before. There's some people don't think that's true. I disagree 100%. Going back to February 1st and 2nd, people saw 2 years worth of mine supply dumped at the open. Now, that's not good trading. In fact, any broker who did that ought to be fired. And if they did it on behalf of me, I'd fire them. That's not how you execute a trade. You don't dump that kind, 1.5 billion ounces at the open for any other reason but to scare the heck out of people. It's not done to execute the best trade. And that's all paper silver, mind you, short, mostly naked short, setting themselves up for what could be a run on the COMEX. And when we look at the fact that I can't even get a 1,000-ounce silver bar to a client before March, well, that's never happened before. I could have gotten someone as many as they wanted by tomorrow. That tells me that deep down, the COMEX is concerned about a run. And the fact that they are not letting 1,000-ounce bars out, they're concerned. Why till March? Well, the delivery month starts February 24th. And, you see the prospectus and SLV change. They're concerned about not enough supply backing the number of shares issued. The whole thing is getting exponentially more tight, like a coiled spring. And at some point it pops. Mathematically, logically, economically, I can't see a way that it doesn't. When it happens, that's the $6 million question.
I think we have time just for one viewer's question, and they're wanting to know about 1,000-ounce bars. So one of the things that is interesting, if you look at kind of demand for physical silver, right? People who are purchasing, right, from dealers like us are normally buying the 100-ounce bars, the coins and all of that, and those can go away really quickly. The supply of that can be reduced really quickly. With the 1,000-ounce bars, correct me if I'm wrong, but most of the time there's a good supply of them, but they're wanting to know, what are you seeing right now, and what kind of premiums are you seeing as well on those?
Yeah, like I just said, I can't get them. They used to be as many as someone wanted, $10 million deal, no problem. I talked with a very large distributor who told me that there's none available till March. The premiums that I am seeing are higher than I've ever seen them for, about $1 over the price of silver retail. Normally it's 30, 40 cents over, if that. the fact that there are none available till March is, I've never seen that in 31 years ever. That tells me that the COMEX is bracing for a squeeze. They're concerned about this massive open interest into the delivery month. Huge. Remember, I've talked to you about last year about the rise of this others reportable group on the COMEX that has been draining the COMEX through repetitive deliveries, taking as much off in a month as we typically see in a year. Last year, there was over 320 million ounces, I believe, delivered to this group. The open interest this time is massive. And you could very well see a huge run on delivering product off the COMEX. And so that is having a really a corollary effect on the availability of 1,000-ounce bars, on their price. And these are things that were always available, that no one ever asked me for. And if they did, I could get it no problem at all. But to be told I have to wait 4 weeks for 1,000-ounce bars at 4 times what I normally sell them for in terms of premium, that to me is very, very, very interesting. And interesting, I'm kind of putting in quotation marks because it's usually the opposite of that. The stuff that I sell is long gone before that stuff's gone. Now that stuff's gone. And what that tells me, it's like a trickle-down effect. The people on top are pulling metal off of the exchanges. That's something I've been saying to you and everyone else for over a year now. In fact, you saw it going all the way back to 2017 when the central banks started repatriating their gold. The Bundesbank, Bank of Hungary, the Bank of Turkey, the Bank of Poland, Dutch National Bank, the Bank of Austria, all said, give us our gold back, from the New York Fed and from the Bank of England. And we've seen the rise of this others group, which are characterized as sovereign wealth funds and family offices. Last year, they took more gold and silver off of the exchanges than we see in a decade. They did it in a year. And the trend is continuing now, maybe even exacerbating, on top of the fact that retail demand is crazier than I've ever seen. So you put it all together. The fact that 1,000-ounce bars are gone, literally gone being the wrong word, delayed a month ahead of 100-ounce bars or premium 1-ounce coins is disconcerting. It tells me that things are accelerating, that when people talk about supply disappearing, it's a real possibility. I've been saying it for a long time. Does it happen? Don't know. But I will tell you it's a 24-hour a day job to continue to get stuff coming in our shop. And I've had several people ask me about thousands lately, and I'm sure it's because they all want to break the COMEX. They want to break the commercial banks that are suppressing the price, that are holding down the paper price by naked shorting at thinly traded sessions before the market opens and figuring by demanding 1,000-ounce bars that would happen. Well, it certainly would lend to the fight. But right now, you can see they're being limited. You can't get them, and I'm talking from the largest distributors in the world can't get them, including people who make them can't get them. So where that leads, don't know. But I do think it's certainly emblematic of what could be if we see some massive short squeezes and difficulty getting physical product.
All right. Well, Andy Schectman, we really appreciate your time today. If people would like to call us, they can call us at 1-800-822-8080 or email us at info@milesfranklin.com. Any last thoughts before we let you go?
Yeah, in an industry that is void of product, we've somehow managed a way to continually get stuff. And it started by buying product months in advance and sending money to distributors across the globe months in advance. And so right now we do have a decent supply, albeit at the highest premiums I've seen in 31 years, albeit at lower than just about anyone in the United States. And we won't be undersold. We will give as best a service as we possibly can. And I say that to you in that our phones are ringing off the hook. Sometimes it takes a day to get back to people, but we will make it worth their while. I will personally reach out to us, send us an email. And we are running a special right now on Silver Maple Leafs 2021s at $6.99 over. We have Philharmonics and Krugerrands at barely over $5. We have stuff in stock that I think you'll find our listeners will find stack up really well in price, in availability, and the ability to get it out quickly. So what happens next month, don't know. But for today, we're all right. And I appreciate our weekly conversations. Elijah, thank you for helping us get the word out, and look forward to seeing you again a week from today.
Definitely. God bless, Andy.
God bless, Elijah. Be well, my friend.